wow, that's so cool. Like, turn me into a diamond when I die. I really would love the idea of having them with me every single day,
Mhm.
to have a process over the next year that helps me grieve, then have my loved one with me every day, then have a family heirloom that gets passed down. Like, what else would I spend money on that feels more special than that?
This is the Buried in Work podcast, where we share tips and interview experts to help you simplify estate planning and end-of-life tasks.
Adelle Archer is the co-founder and CEO of Eterneva. It's a celebration of life company that transforms the ashes or hair of a loved one into custom memorial diamonds. Her mission is to reimagine how we approach death and remembrance by celebrating remarkable lives. Eterneva, which you've probably heard of if you're in the industry, gained national attention after she appeared on Shark Tank. They secured investment from Mark Cuban. And since then, the company is going gangbuster. They've been named the Consumer Startup of the Year by the Stevie Awards. They've been featured in outlets like Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, and Adele herself has been honored on both the Forbes and the Inc. 30 Under 30 lists. Adele, it's great to have you.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, let's start with your background. You came from the tech world.
Mhm.
You know, this is a tech play, but at the same point in time, it's a lot more than that. What led you to launch this company that's focused on grief, legacy, memorialization, everything in between?
Totally. Well, I definitely did not expect to launch an end-of-life company, candidly. I think we have a lot in common in that way. A lot of people that start end-of-life companies, they do it by going through an end-of-life experience and going, God, that experience was rough, and like, how could we make it better? And as somebody that has a tech background, I think we thought so much about consumer experience in that community and that side of things. And then I'm a big brand person as well. And just, I find it really inspiring how great brands and great technologies have really elevated our experiences across so many areas of our life, better products, just better kind of end-to-end experiences. And then when my co-founder and I originally, we were actually like still working at a tech company, and we started kind of trying to figure out we're going to work on something. We want to build something ourselves. We got pulled into a lab-grown diamond opportunity. And so that was very early innings of that industry, just like regular lab-grown diamonds. So we thought we were going to build a brand over there and partner with some technologists on that. And so we were kind of plugged into the tech. But on a personal side of my life, I had my very dear friend and my business mentor, her name's Tracy. She got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer completely out of the blue. And yeah, I mean, from kind of identification to passing was like a month and a half. It was super fast. And she was my person. I mean, to call Tracy a mentor, like, doesn't do her full justice. Like, I was at her house every week. Like, she was just a huge part of my 20s. And I think for Trace, like, she had lost a lot of her family very young. So she really did not have next of kin to take care of her. She was passing away and doing a lot of her end of life planning. It was her aunt that ended up really stepping up, her aunt and uncle, and myself and a couple good friends that were her caretakers and, doing a lot of that end of life planning. And so that was just really, really eye-opening, starting to survey that landscape. And, I was really like focused on the question, how do we honor Tracy? And like, what are options that feel special and meaningful and like good enough for her that is going to keep her legacy alive? And frankly, I was pretty uninspired by what I was finding. You just look across the space and, a lot of providers just felt very like transactional is, I would say, probably the biggest takeaway that I had was just feeling like things were trinkety, not well made, transactional, and really not thinking about the consumer experience. Then over dinner one night, I was with a diamond scientist, and he actually brought this idea up to me. He's like, oh, well, did you know that you could turn ashes into diamonds? Blew my mind. I had no idea. And I just fell in love with the idea immediately. I'm like, Tracy is a diamond. She will love this. Like, this is what we're doing.
So hold on a second. I mean, you say that really casually, and I think it's really neat that you had that opportunity, but it's not every day that someone's like, oh, I just happened to have dinner with a diamond scientist.
I know.
What's the background? How are you tied in there?
Yeah. So basically, there was a guy I went to business school with, and his dad was on the board of a lab-grown diamond manufacturing group that was in South Carolina at the time. So Garrett, my co-founder, and I were actually looking to partner with that group. They were mostly growing diamonds at the time for industrial applications, and they wanted to break into consumer-grade jewelry. It was very early innings of that industry of like consumers even knowing you could grow a beautiful diamond in a lab. So that's what we were thinking that we were going to do. And we were kind of deciding, is this the right business model to focus on or not? So we were spending a lot of time with the team, a lot of time with like technologists. And so, yeah, hence the dinner
Right,
with
so
that.
you have the dinner, you start educating yourself if you haven't already on how to grow a diamond, which is an interesting way to describe the process. You have Tracy, mentor, friend, big part of your life. You go through the process of cremation, you get the ashes, and then you grow her into something new.
Yeah.
What is growing? How does it work?
Yeah. Well, I'll just kind of take you back through the final steps of that experience because, like, it was not like, oh, let's go grow her diamond ourselves. Eterneva, while we're probably the most well known brand in this space, we are the newest brand in this space. Like, there were
Mhm.
other companies that were doing this. And so, again, at the time, I was just like, I was just a consumer. I'm like, I love this. I'm obsessed with this. I'm going to do it. And so I went to go start the process. I talked to like a handful of companies. And I think, again, it was the same experience. Just like nobody even asked me who I was doing this for, what our
Mhm.
relationship was. Like it was very impersonal. But then I really wanted to understand the process because it felt super black box. Like
Mhm.
you're like, how do you turn ashes into diamonds? Like, what a wild concept. And nobody would show the process. Nobody would kind of disclose where labs were. Just like give you peace of mind that this diamond has your loved one's carbon in it. And so that was really for us kind of the catalyst to say, I love this idea. And it doesn't surprise me that it hasn't really, feels like nobody's heard of it because I think this is not getting executed on well. And if it was really done right with experience at the heart of it and transparency at the heart of it, I think a lot of people would want to do this. And so hence, we had to figure out how do we do this process? And it's actually much more like it's a very, very intricate process. It involves a lot of different disciplines of science. So, first you have to actually extract the carbon from the ashes. There's organic carbon in ashes, also inorganic carbon in ashes, which is like basically in the bone matter. So, what you're doing is you're going through a purification process to kind of break down these compounds, have everything that's not carbon evaporate and what's left is a carbon graphite. And you need it to be really, really pure to be able to successfully grow a good quality diamond from it.
Let's
So
let's
like,
I'm gonna interrupt you. Let's step back even further. So there's a lot of listeners that may even not know what ashes actually are after cremation.
yeah,
Can you go
yeah.
through that, like, explain that, and then pop back into where you were?
100%. So when someone is cremated, mostly they're going through a flame-based cremation, which is when a body is burned for a set period of time, and what's left is bone fragment. There's also some other cool methods where you can do water-based cremation, which is,
Mhm.
very environmentally sustainable, which I love. You can still do our process with those ashes. Most people are going through flame-based today, and so what's left over is a bone matter. And then the crematorium will then turn that bone matter into a very fine kind of powder. They kind of grind the bone until it's a powder. And that's what you're getting home in an urn. And so for our process, we only ask for about half a cup of ashes to
Mhm.
do our process. And that's, when you're talking like a full sized adult, they usually are like 8 to 10 cups of ashes. So it's about 5% of what you're getting back. So it's a small amount. And from that, we can extract enough carbon to grow 5 to 7 diamonds. Like we only need 1 gram of carbon per diamond that we're growing. And then it's the length of time that you grow for is how big it is. And so, yeah, from half a cup, typically you're able to harvest a good like 5 to 7 grams. And so always have more than what we need. We're very thoughtful about that and store additional carbon for our families. If ever they want to come back and have more diamonds made, or God forbid a diamond's lost, you can have it insured and then they'll cover the replacement cost of us growing an additional. But yeah, that's kind of how that process works. And so we're harvesting that carbon out and ensuring that it's at a very, very high purity level. And we show our families like every stage of our process. So we'll show them, hey, here are your loved one's ashes going into the carbon crucible, which is what we do the purification process in. We seal it under camera. You see us come out of purification and open it under camera for the first time and do the carbon reveal. And it's this like beautiful think for a lot of people, like when they get to witness these milestones, it's really powerful because they're witnessing a literal transformation of state. The carbon is this like sparkly, beautiful graphite powder. And it's really emotional for a lot of people. When they see their carbon reveal for the first time for their loved one, they're like, oh, because I think ashes remind people of loss and they're kind of a marker of the day that someone passed. And then when they start to witness the like ashes to carbon, and then carbon turns into a rough diamond and then we cut it and it becomes a cut diamond. And if you go through a coloration process, like then there's a color reveal and then you design the piece of jewelry. And when it comes home, we call it the homecoming, the day the diamond comes home, and you get to put your person on, your loved one on for the first time and like feel that energy and feel that connection point. I think it's very, very cathartic, each of those steps and milestones along that journey.
Wow. Are people approaching this with all reverence and sincerity and honesty, or do some people actually approach it with a bit of humility and humor as well? Like there's the saying that a diamond is forever, thanks to
Yeah.
beers, you came up with that. Is it Aunt Sally is forever now?
It's really interesting. When we first started Eterneva, I would say our like general population response was probably 50-50.
Hmm.
It's like it's whenever you're building a new category, right? You're going to go through kind of an evolution of how people experience it. Remember, Uber and Airbnb used to be
Hmm.
like weird, We kind of had a similar, like either people were like, wow, that's beautiful, or we would have be like, people be like, oh, wearing gram in your finger. I don't know. What's been interesting is actually to really watch how much that's changed over the years. I would say today it's probably like 90-10 of like very positive, like people loving the concept and the
Hmm.
idea. They may not have heard about it, but they're like, wow, that's a really cool and beautiful way to honor a loved one and to have them with you all the time. And I think COVID honestly really changed things. I think people actually had to, I think it's actually a reflection of our culture's relationship with end of life and death. It wasn't Eterneva. It was just like, are they comfortable talking about death or not? Are they going to make a joke about it because they're like uncomfortable? And yeah, I just think post COVID got a lot more real. We had to talk about some stuff, some hard stuff, and we got more comfortable like looking at it and talking about it. But yeah, we have some really sweet and lighthearted families as well. Like we have our production facilities in Germany and then in Texas. So we have both. We encourage people, hey, you want to come visit us in Texas, get a tour of the lab? Awesome. But sometimes we'll have customers be like, no, I like want my loved one's diamond to grow at the German facility because like they would have loved the world travel. Like just stamp their passport, please. They love it. They think it's great that they're getting to see the world.
Is that typical for facilities like yours to be in Germany or the US, or is that like the discount beauty industry right now where people go to Brazil for a vacation and do things cheaper, right? Can you get that back door? Are there problems with doing that?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, we are frankly the only company that has really been very intentional with how we've invested in our supply chain. A day one value for us is transparency and
Mhm.
integrity and just making sure that like at no point, does any family ever feel they should know exactly where their loved one is. They should know exactly what's going on. Know that we're doing as we say. We video every step. We show it to them. We include them. We're like, yeah, open kimono, come visit our lab, come see it all. I think that was really designed because of what didn't exist in our space. I see, especially now being in the industry, you kind of hear the inside scoop on stuff.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of companies misrepresenting where they're headquartered. They'll claim to be American companies when in reality, they've just gotten like a receiving office or a PO box. They make it seem as though they might be producing in the US, but they're actually sending loved ones to India and China to like big diamond houses that who knows if they're actually following good chain of custody protocols like you should if this is an end of life company. And then there's even companies like I worry might just be fulfilling orders with regular diamonds. There's no oversight, there's no accountability. And so that's just been a big one for us is just like trust
Yeah.
is the name of our business and we're venture backed. We've been had a lot of due diligence from a lot of
Mhm.
investors. We work with enterprise level funeral home conglomerates who audit our supply chains. We want our supply chain to be close to home in places that, really have a high regard for excellence and precision and chain of custody, and that families just like know that this is being done at the utmost quality and the utmost respect and the utmost integrity. So,
Mhm. You mentioned that some companies, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too deeply, but they might be saying they're using the ashes to grow diamonds of your loved ones, but they're actually using real diamonds. Can you tell a real diamond, mined diamond, found diamond from one that is lab grown? Or once it goes through that process, you can't actually see a
there
difference?
actually is a technical way that you'd be able to you can test to see if something has biocarbon in it or not
Mhm.
because it's actually going to come down to the ratios of carbon isotopes. And so, yeah, I mean, like when it has biocarbon, it's going to have more kind of a higher diversity of carbon isotopes than if it
Mhm.
was a generic lab grown diamond. There's also two different methods that you can grow diamonds with. Most of the industry uses what's called carbon vapor deposition, because also just kind of for education, like a lot of the lab-grown diamond production occurs in India. They go where labor is very cheap. They are using production methods where they're just mass producing diamonds in as many batches as they can. You can grow up to like 100 diamonds in a cycle today, these bigger machines that are in India. So that's how a lot of regular lab-grown diamonds are produced, why they're much cheaper than if you're doing one diamond at a time from a personal carbon source that's grown to exact specifications too. The cost is going to be quite different. And so, yeah, I think if for companies that are trying to cut corners, it's cheap product over there that they can go buy and create some arbitrage. But I couldn't fathom being able to go to bed at night, misrepresenting that there's carbon in it or not. I don't know. It's crazy.
With the values that you all have put in place, trust, integrity from the get-go, it sounds like you're adhering to it. You mentioned specification, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Can I say, I want a 17-carat diamond? Are there a limit? I want a blue carat. What about the cut? Because, everybody goes, oh, which cut is best on my finger? Can you choose and pick?
Yeah. So up front, what our families will do is they're picking a carat size, a color, and then a shape. And then we're guaranteeing at least minimum clarity standards. So we're at least guaranteeing an SI2 clarity, which is eye clean. You're not going to see inclusions in the diamond. Majority of the diamonds we're growing are in the VS to VVS range. If you're a diamond person, you just know that's very, very, very good. So a lot of Eterneva, we've vertically integrated a lot of our production capability, and we've spent a lot of time and money on research and development in developing our recipes. Because to be able to grow diamonds, it's a different recipe if you're doing a small colorless diamond than if you're doing a 5-carat blue diamond, for example. So you have to master all of your product mix recipes and do it at a very high quality and consistent level. And of course, as you can imagine, when you're growing from a personal carbon source, we're literally tailoring the recipe to every person because we're working with a different input every single time. So you're monitoring kind of the all of the different, KPIs that you're looking at, ensuring that it will be grown successfully. So you're growing a rough diamond that's going to be big enough and clear enough to cut that target shape and to cut that target carat weight. So we just, in the last year, unlocked some big diamonds. Right now, we can go up to 5 carats. Still working up to 10. We should be able to get to 10.
That's really big. Okay, so if you look at we've got information hubs, which we talked about before we chatted, and one of the sections is final resting place options. There's a company that takes ashes, and instead of making diamonds, they turn it into stones that we talk about. And for them, they say the color of the stones can change based on the input, which is really neat. You don't think that one person's ashes might be a little bit different from somebody else's.
Totally.
How do you all get to the point? Is that the extraction of the carbon that you talked about that baselines everything no matter what the input is?
Yeah. So we actually do have a little bit of that as well. So it won't be, as kind of radical as if we were just working with the raw material of ashes. We're extracting the carbon. And so you're getting to a 99.999% purity, but there's still some additional kind of impurities and other elements that can influence things. And so, for example, when you're growing a yellow diamond or a blue diamond, you can designate, I want something dark, I want something light. But then really there's going to be some individual kind of influence on the exact hue that you end up getting that is going to be personal to the person, So yeah, we always kind of joke that we're they're choosing their color, this is their choice. So yeah, there's some control, but not to the level that you're I can pick an exact hue of blue. It's no, it's actually going to be influenced a little bit by them.
So they've got the spectrum that they're choosing from. They're going, let's say, hypothetical me, I want a 4-carat diamond from an old dog, Fido, because I love Fido and I want him to be remembered forever. We're going to go with a light blue hue, so we're going to get that spectrum that it comes from. How long does that process take? Once you receive it, is it a few days? Is it a few weeks? Is it months?
Months. Yeah, months. So our whole end-to-end process, so you purify the ashes into carbon, you grow the rough diamond, you cut the diamond, the rough into a cut diamond. You may go through a coloration process, grading, authenticating, certifying this is a real diamond from a personal carbon source. Go through jewelry. Typically we're designing the jewelry for our families and what they want their diamonds set in, and then home at the very end. That whole end-to-end process typically is about 7 months. If we're doing a really big diamond, there's some more time involved. Certain colors can take longer, like black diamonds take
Mhm.
like multiple months just to color them black. But yeah, I would say generally speaking, 7-ish months. And so something that I think has been really cool in our evolution in the beginning, we just again wanted people to have comfort and confidence. They knew what was going on. They knew where they were at. And when we started sharing updates with them, we just found like there were these incredible responses and incredible reactions from people that it was like, wow, this is like so much more, frankly, than just a transparency exercise. Like, we should really lean into this and make it storytelling driven. And like, we already were talking a lot about their loved one, but like, can we show them, in our videos, like pull their loved one's photo in and like mention little tidbits about them? And so it really kind of evolved and became what we now call like a grief wellness journey. We call it the diamond journey because it's meant to be this outlet that's giving somebody a way to process that loss and to talk about that person and to feel a team of people. They have a care team that walks with them through that journey and that process, that it's a method to integrate and to heal. And so the fact that it takes time, I think, is a real value add. A lot of
Yeah.
families come out the other side and they're like, that's really what I needed in my first year of grief. Like, I needed this. I needed this outlet.
It's something to look forward to. The best things in life you have to wait for sometimes.
No, yeah, 100%. Say it's like a gestation process. They
Yeah.
like will make that analogy of like, it's like watching, them grow and them hit all those milestones.
Oh my goodness, I have so many questions. All right, so you get the ashes. Ashes are considered human remains at that point. You remove the carbon, you start making the diamond, you grow the diamond. It's 7 months later. Fido is becoming his new shiny, glimmering, warm self. You have to cut it down. Are the shavings of the diamond, and this is me like speaking without really understanding the process, are the shavings of the diamond still considered remains?
No, so basically the way the diamonds are cut is you cut on a cutting wheel. And so it's kind of a misnomer to say cutting. It's basically like you're shaping. So you're kind of like grinding away you're shaping and polishing it into its final form. So there really aren't like shards that you would go kind of collect.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, you might use a laser, to like avoid an inclusion. And in those cases, like we'll laser off a piece of the diamond that will actually go home with the family. But that's pretty uncommon, honestly.
Okay. You were on Shark Tank. I know that everybody asked you about that. What is something about Shark Tank that surprised you? What was the experience like?
Honestly, like the thing that just meant the most to me about that experience was we were actually the first ever end of life company to be on Shark Tank because we were on it in 2019. So that was pre-COVID, and I really do think that there's like a pre-COVID version of culture's relationship with end of life, and then there's a post, COVID version. And so we were pre-COVID, and so it was very unusual for these topics to be talked about at a national level, on a big kind of high profile stage. And that's just really what that represented for me. Was like, it was just a really special and monumental way, we actually, our whole pitch was actually a video where we were showing, like we were having our customers and their loved ones pitch us, instead of us. And it was just very powerful. And I think one of the coolest things for us is like, I just did some customer research. We have some awesome, like fascinating insights where we were surveying customers from 2021 to now. And consistently year over year, a good 15% of our customers say that they originally heard about us on Shark Tank. And the number of stories that are emerging every year of like, I was sitting with my significant other and we're like, wow, that's so cool. Like, turn me into a diamond when I die, And it was kind of just like a lighthearted conversation that they had. Then their loved one passes and they're like, I'm so glad we had that conversation and watched that episode that day. Like, thank you. I'm
Wow.
glad that I know what they wanted and I can fulfill on that wish. And it's just like, that's really cool. I think that was a really unexpected piece of it, is realizing how many people feel like they had that fulfillment of really delivering on someone's wish just because of us being on that show.
That's wonderful. And a lot of people don't realize many entrepreneurs try and get on the show not for the actual investment, for the commercial time. And it's effectively an advertisement for you.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it is.
it's neat that you have so many people that are coming back saying that they heard from you, but I'd actually say you want that number to drop because it shows that your other marketing verticals are improving. I don't know.
Well, yeah. But I think it just goes to show, I don't think Shark Tank is it for everyone,
Yeah.
for that exact reason. I think for some companies, it's kind of a flash in the pan. You go on, you get the
Mhm.
nice burst of sales, but you gave a lot of equity up to do that deal. I think for Eterneva, it planted a lot of seeds for millions of people that watch it. And then they go and they tell other people. Like, we have such a word of mouth halo
Mhm.
around our brand. We're very storytelling driven. And so, one of our very kind of early days, something that we've done that's really unusual in the end of life space is we built a real consumer brand. We have great video storytelling, especially on social media, kind of short format, like very heartwarming. And our videos go wildly viral, like 20 million plus views, like when a video goes viral. And it's not just the people that they're reaching, it's who they then go tell, because we're just such an interesting dinner table topic or something you talk about with your hairdresser. And,
Mhm.
so those are often, it's like that second and third degree that was kind of a catalyst from whatever that source event was, Shark Tank, a viral video, whatever it may be. That, yeah, it'll be like somebody was like, oh, yeah, my neighbor watched your Shark Tank episode and then I lost my cat. And we had a conversation over the fence and that's how I found you. You're like, what? That's crazy.
Love it. All right,
Yeah.
let's get real and switch topics to something else. So memorial diamonds, they're meaningful, they're beautiful. The reality is they're also a luxury that a lot of people can't have access to or don't have access to that might want it. How do you think about accessibility, pricing, who gets to have the experience? Because obviously, we'd want everybody that wants to have the experience, but it's not necessarily the cheapest.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that like the important kind of way to frame it or think about it though is you look at like how much we spend on end of life as a whole.
Mhm.
When you're burying a loved one, on average, you're spending $15,000 to $20,000 because you have to buy the plot, the casket, the headstone. If you're doing a funeral, then you pay for all the event costs and the catering and like it's really expensive. And I think for a lot of consumers, we're very much at kind of this cultural tipping point where I think people are really not wanting traditional funerals as much anymore. We're kind of increasingly secularizing. People are more resonating with this concept of celebration of life and wanting
Mhm.
to do something that feels more special and kind of personal to their loved one. So I think what we're really seeing is like a lot of people are choosing cremation and then they're like, okay, so if we don't spend all this money on all of these other things, over here, they actually are just kind of reallocating the budget,
Yeah.
So we see most of our families spend about $10,000. Our entry price is $3,000. And so I think it's just they're saying in lieu of kind of all these additional costs, like let's reallocate it over here. Also with end of life, like there are often inheritances, there's life insurance payouts. So like there's more use of funds that come into play than just in kind of an average day-to-day context. And so, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our families, you'd be surprised. It's not really high net worth individuals that are buying this. Like our average household income is $80,000. And I think for those people, the common denominator is they said, this is one of my most important relationships. I really would love the idea of having them with me every single day,
Mhm.
to have a process over the next year that helps me grieve, then have my loved one with me every day, then have a family heirloom that gets passed down. Like, what else would I spend money on that feels more special than that? So yeah, I we know that it's not for everybody, and that's okay. I think for those that it resonates for, like we absolutely over deliver on the value. So I think that they feel really fulfilled with that. And as we grow, as we expand as a brand, as a company, like maybe one day there's additional product diversification to
Mhm.
allow us to do more. But we just want to make sure that we aren't trying to be all things to all people and just like really do what we do incredibly well and create raving fans. And then we can continue to kind of open the aperture over time.
And you guys are definitely building that brand and staying true to that mission. So well
Yeah.
done there. All right, you've done a lot of these interviews before, podcasts, and everything has gone great so far from what we've seen. What is something that you wish people talked to you or asked you about more that they don't?
Gosh, that's a really great question.
We're going to put you on the spot.
Well, I'll kind of like adapt it slightly of just like maybe something that I wish we just all talked about more as a culture when it comes to end of life. I think a lot of people, when they're engaging with Eterneva or something that where they're kind of like, ooh, would I want to be a diamond when I die? And they kind of go into this mode of like, is that what I want?
Mhm.
No, I want this, I want that. I think a lot of people don't think about how important it is to ask the people who are going to be left behind, and the people that are going to grieve you what they want and what they need. And I see that a lot in our business where grateful for more of these types of that Shark Tank style conversation where the conversation got to happen before the person passed. Because I'll have like a young girl that's like, I really want to I want, my dad was my person and I want him to walk me down the aisle. I want a diamond for him. But he always said like, oh, just like put me in a box in a ditch somewhere, don't spend money on my services. So she'll feel really conflicted and be like, am I not fulfilling his wishes? But I'm like, man, I feel like if they had that conversation and he knew that how much that would mean to her, he would have totally blessed her doing this. And so I think that that's just something that I wish more people would ask each other, and that would be more of our kind of cultural conversation around end of life is not just what you want when you're about dying, but like talk to your husband, talk to your wife, talk to your kids, like what would really help them, in the wake of your passing. So that would be the conversational paradigm shift I would offer.
All right. Well, Adele, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to learn more about Eterneva, they can visit eterneva.com. We have our Memorial Diamonds Information Hub. You can go and find out information about them and the process on the Buried in Work website. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Also, our socials, they're amazing. Our Instagram, our TikTok, we show behind the scenes of the lab and like heartwarming stories and lots of diamond inspiration of what other people are doing. It's a very vibrant community. People love our socials.
All right. Check it out. Eterneva. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Buried in Work podcast. Remember, you can save 10% on our estate preparation package and games with code podcast10 at buriedinwork.com.